Cops of Reddit, what is the most suspicious thing you've ever caught somebody doing for a totally illegitimate reason? I find so many suspicious vehicles in our National Veterans Cemetery in my jurisdiction. They almost always turn out to be Pokemon Go airs. OMG yes. When Pokemon Go came out a couple summers ago, we got so many suspicious person calls. All of them Pokemon. 3 AM on a weeknight and I pull up behind the car at a light. The light is green and the car is stopped but running. Foot was on the brake. Light turns red, so I wait behind him. Light turns green again and this dude isn't moving. So my partner and I quietly exit our vehicle and approach his. He was completely passed out. Asleep. With the car in drive. We woke him up and talked to him to make sure he wasn't drunk and he was just tired because his wife had a baby a few days ago and needed him to run to the store for something. That newborn sleep deprivation is real. Here's a story from a family friend who was a sergeant in a major West Coast city. One of his new officers was late for roll call one night. After about 45 minutes, sergeant gets a call from another station asking if he was the sergeant for the missing officer. Hilarity ensues. Apparently, the missing officer was getting ready to leave his apartment for roll call for the night shift. As he walked out to the stairs, he sees a guy in a ski mask hop through his neighbor's window. Cop radios the burglary in progress and runs back to his apartment to get his shotgun. When he gets back to neighbor's house, he heard a female screaming and the sounds of a struggle. Cop announces himself, kicks open the front door, runs to the kitchen and sees what he thinks is ski mask guy violating the neighbor. The neighbor sees cop with shotgun screaming at ski mask guy and she completely freaks out. Turns out ski mask guy was neighbor's boyfriend husband doing some sort of roleplay fantasy at neighbor's request. At least nobody got shot and apparently, the cop was known thereafter as Officer Seek Block. Son of a cop. My dad told me about a time back in the 80s. My father was sitting in his cruiser. Around the corner from a bar, a car drives by swerving a little with exhaust coming for the tailpipe, signifying a recently started vehicle. Pulls the guy over. Smells alcohol on the driver, while also noticing a large staff in the backseat. He has the driver step out. Then inquires about the staff. The driver tells my dad, I'm a black belt in Kung Fu. I use it in class. So my father, unconvinced, asks him to demonstrate his proficiency with the staff, whilst proving his sobriety in a sort of impromptu field sobriety test. The driver puts on a little show for dad on the side of the road. Dad's enjoying the show, but starts to hear sirens coming from all directions. A passerby had seen my dad on the side of the road in a face-off with a crazy man and a stick. Thinking my dad was in need of help, the passerby called the cops. Apparently, my dad had been so wrapped up in the show, he had not heard the radio calls for him. So dispatch sent all available units to his rescue. Passerby thought my dad was getting kicked by ninja. I love this so much. My cousin is a cop and told us the story of seeing a car driving slowly at about 3 AM through a neighborhood that had had several break-ins. He thinks to himself that they're looking for a target. So he puts on his lights and pulls them over. He walks up and the driver puts the window down and she turns to look at him with fire in her eyes and says, in a harsh whisper, this had better be important because I just got the baby to sleep. He looks in the back and there's a baby in a car seat, sound asleep. The memory of what it was like when his babies wouldn't sleep rushes back. And he says, oh no, I'm so sorry. Never mind. And goes back to his car. She drives away slowly. He's just glad he didn't wake the baby. He fell for the oldest trick in the book. The old take your baby on the heist trick. Rookie mistake. I was just starting on the street around the time Pokemon Go was taking off. So many contacts in the middle of the night that were just people trying to catch Pokemon. Me. Mom, I noticed you're driving in circles around this closed business at 3 AM. Person. Yeah, there's a herd of Charmanders here and it's too busy during the day. Me. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Pulls out phone and opens Go. TLDR, it was Brussels sprouts. I'm the guy who was doing something suspicious, but it kinda fits here. When I used to work at a grocery store, I would get off sometime between 10 PM and 12 AM. And I also preferred to ride my bike most of the year to save on gas. Since work was close to my house and there were few cars out, I never really bothered with lights. Already suspicious, I know. Right around Thanksgiving we would get in these massive stalks of Brussels sprouts. Which, if you have never seen one, they look like something you might find growing on an alien planet. A solid 3 feet of little bulbs at the end of spikes basically. They were super cheap, so I couldn't pass up such a deal. But of course the only way for me to transport it home at night was to ride with a stalk sticking a foot out of my backpack. I have no idea what the cops thought it was when they pulled me over. A weapon? They were doing their deal where one talks to me and the other checks me out from behind when the one behind me busted out laughing. Double quote. Are those Brussels sprouts ? They let me go a minute later. Prior us Coast Guard. We were doing a security boarding on a vessel planning on entering port with some hazardous cargo. Me and one other guy are in the engine room, making sure everything is kosher, when we catch a glimpse of some boots barely sticking out from under a piece of machinery. Since, as far as we knew, all crew were present and accounted for above deck, we were understandably concerned. We radio up asking about it. Get told all present and accounted for up above. So we're thinking stowaway or someone being smuggled. Luckily it was neither. Just a dude who legit fell asleep while doing some maintenance. He shared a name with one of the other crew. So that's how we missed his absence. Apparently they, our guy up above, checked the same guy twice. Go fig. Imagine the state of confusion that guy was in. Falls asleep doing maintenance work on some machinery and is woken up by the Coast Guard. My husband told me a story of one time when he was patrolling around and he spotted a guy who was in a straitjacket. Come round a corner of town that he was patrolling. Instantly suspicious. He ran over and grabbed him and asked him what he was doing. He said he was just messing around with it with a friend, but he lost his friend and can't get out. So my husband asked to call his friend just in case. And lo and behold, he wasn't even lying. At around 2 AM on a weeknight, I see a guy bolt from a house in a quiet residential burglary hotspot. His face is covered. He's wearing sunglasses or something similar and the kind of dark clothing you catch burglars in. As I follow him and start to shout up on the radio, the car's parked between us, clear to reveal he is running on a lead behind the tiniest dog I've ever seen. A clearly uncontrollable pooch that is having the time of its life. I just kept going. Tiniest dog. That's the dog I'd use if I wanted to avoid suspicion. Rob stuff. And then run off with the dog in my pocket. I'm the person that was doing something suspicious for a totally legit reason. Back in college, my female roommate and one of her female friends got in a rough patch and things boiled over at the local dive bar. They went outside to hash things out and I saw she left her purse behind. I paid both our tabs with my own money and brought her purse outside to give it to her. Well, I guess they made up and their way of celebrating was running through the streets yelling at the top of their lungs. So I tried to catch up to them, without thinking how it looked. 2 drunk girls running and screaming down the street while I, a drunk 6 feet 1 inches, 200-pound bearded man, is chasing after them with a purse in hand. My girlfriend worked at a haunted house. She was taking some co-workers home. Cop pulls them over, rolls down the window and sees bloodied zombies everywhere. Cop freaks, calls for backup, and they're yelling, "We work at Horror Hill, it's alright." He finally got the message. They said he had to catch his breath. He told them he was about to freak out really hard. Went down amiably, however, and everyone had a laugh. Patrolling a military housing neighborhood, I had noticed a suspicious van parked around the area over the past few nights. Always in a different spot, but I could never catch it coming or going. So around the 5th night of this, I hide my car and wait. Sure enough, the van rolls through. I waited a few minutes before following. Turn the corner and light up 3 guys rummaging through all the trash cans left on the street. Turns out, they were part of SIT, Thinknsis, the show, but army version. They suspected someone in the area was cooking meth, and were going through that garbage cans to find discarded ingredients. I only found this out after getting chewed out after they called my supervisors. I still don't feel bad. No one told me. Found a guy parked behind a middle school around 5:30 am on a weekday morning during the school's winter break, so no one should be there. He didn't have much of an excuse as to why he was there, but nothing else was out of place and he wasn't wanted. It wasn't until he drove away and I looked around where his car was parked and I found out what he was doing. He had taken a massive dump that was just sitting on top of the snow still steaming. Made me laugh so hard all I could do was kick snow over it and go 10-8. Available for calls. I got pulled up on while smashing a car with a sledgehammer and a crowbar. My car had been absolutely totaled by a drunk driver. It was sitting in my driveway and I decided I wanted to get all my stuff out of the trunk before I sold it for scrap, but the trunk was so smashed in I couldn't just pop it open normally. I misinterpreted your story and thought you saw the drunk driver smashing in your car with a sledgehammer crowbar and then you were like Ocean just hauling stuff out of the car while he was going to town on it. Phase easy. I'm a campus police officer and I was working the overnight shift. This of course means patrolling the parking lots, and from time to time you find people parked in dark spots doing various things. On night I turn a corner and see a car in an empty lot, so I drive up to it. As my lights pass over it I see a guy sitting in the passenger seat leaned back. Head laid back and mouth open, and then I see what looks like a human head bobbing up and down in front of him. I've seen this before. I'm thinking someone is having a good time. Nope. Turns out it's a guy from out of state who has a kid who goes to my college who was set to graduate the next day. The head is one of the balloons he bought for here at a nearby truck stop. He was asleep and left the air on and it got caught in an air current in front of him, thus the bobbing up and down. I woke him to check on him and eventually told him what it initially looked like. His only reply was yay. I wish.